Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Lore College. I'm your teacher, Mr. Burns, and today we are going to go over Steel in our full set review of Attack of the Vine. Don't click away if you have not seen the other ink colors. That is perfectly okay. There will be a playlist. It will be in the pinned comment, and you can pick whatever ink colors you are most interested in, right? You don't have to watch them all in one shot. That's why I went ahead and made a playlist for you. So let's get into it. Boom, look at that. We've got steel, and first we have You Broke My Smolder. One cost, uninkable action, and discard your hand, draw two cards. So, we have seen this previously on a card, Doc Bold Knight, right? And that card was phenomenal. I think it was the best card from that set. It was definitely my favorite card from that set by a long shot. And this is not that. This is just not even close. Doc, being a character, made it so that you could, of course, return it to your hand with things like Madam Mim or a plethora of any other cards that return a character to your hand, right? You could even befuddle it. Whereas You Broke My Smolder, there are ways to return actions back to your hand, but it's a lot more hoops to jump through. Doc being a character also had questing implications, of course. It also had the amazing thing where you could have two Docs in your hand because that's almost always what happened, right? And you could pay two ink, you could play a Doc, you have a 1/3 character, you discard the other Doc, you draw two. So what do you get in that scenario? You have two less ink to use that turn, you have a 1/3 character in play, and you have the same number of cards in your hand that you started with. With You Broke My Smolder, if you have this card in your hand and you're like, yes, finally, I'm going to draw for the turn, I'm going to ink that card, or I'm going to play that card, and then I'm going to play You Broke My Smolder, and I'm going to draw two cards. And you draw You Broke My Smolder. Because for some reason, that's just how it always works in this crazy simulation that we all live in. All right, 824. You know what I'm talking about. Or you don't. I digress. So in this scenario, you're going to pay one ink, you're going to play You Broke My Smolder, discard the other one, draw two cards. So you started the turn, you had two cards in your hand, you now have lost one ink, and you now have two cards in your hand. That is honestly kind of a nightmare scenario. Instead of having paid one additional ink to get a 1/3, which would be on rate, you have done nothing and you're minus one ink that turn. So obviously there are ways to mitigate this. You can play cards like Angel, right? The 4-cost legendary that says discard a card from your hand, deal 2 damage to a character. There's a bunch of ways that you can deal with this situation. So I do think that this card is a decent card, but it is nowhere close to Doc. And I've seen a lot of people rating this as like top card of the set, top 5 cards of the set, top 10 cards of the set. I've got it probably more like top 100 cards of the set, if I'm being honest. Like, there are vanilla characters that I'm more excited about than this card. And yeah, so for that reason, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. If it was inkable, it would be a 5 out of 5. All right. If this was an inkable card, it would definitely be the best card in the set. And I think that is a really good sub lesson we have here on why inkability is so important. There are so many newer players that will send me their deck list, or I'll see their deck list posted online somewhere, and they want to play all the most powerful effects possible. And most of those effects, Ravensburger has given uninkability so that it's not as flexible. Flexibility is absolute king in this game, and we're finding that out more and more as the game progresses. So, all right, I know that one took a while, but I really think it was an important lesson, and there are a few sub lessons in there. So, You Broke My Smolder, 2 out of 5. Stitch, one cost, inkable, 1/3, quest for one. I am more likely to put Stitch in my steel decks than You Broke My Smolder, because Stitch has a lot of good interactions with cards like Lilo, right? And Stitch has a great shift target, actually two of them now. So because of that, it's just an on rate 1/3 vanilla character, but with the upside of all of the things that I just mentioned, it's a 3 out of 5. I think Stitch is a better card than You Broke My Smolder, even though You Broke My Smolder is obviously a much better effect. So, all right. Next, we have Mata, the Meat Hut waitress. And looks like she's serving Kronk here. So we have a 1 cost inkable, 2/2 quest for 1. So because there's no interactions with this, she's even just a storyborn. She's not even an ally, nothing like that. She's going to be a 2 out of 5. And that's another, great little lesson here. Stitch, effectively the same exact stats, right? Both of them have 4 stats between their strength and willpower, and both of them quest for 1. They both cost 1. They're both inkable. Stitch interacts with so many more important and good cards in the game that Mata does not. So, all right, next up we have Discarded Armor. 1 cost inkable item. If you discard a card this turn, chosen character of yours gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn. This is a 1 out of 5. There are times that we have to discard cards. There are some times that we want to discard cards, right? But we do not want to discard a card to give something resist +1. This would, if you put this in a deck, it would be a deck that you just have loads of things that are already discarding cards. You would not add additional effects that discard just because of this. And the resist +1 is just such a low impact ability. I wouldn't even put it in a card that had 40 cards in it that say, when you play this, discard a card. It's just something that is really not necessary in the game. I think it's great that it's wearing Mulan's armor. And of course, the 1 cost Mulan draws a card and discards card when you play it. So it's almost as if like it absorbed the ability and learned from it, and it has adapted itself to fit that. So that's pretty cool. But as far as competitive play goes, because this is more of a competitive channel, 1 out of 5. All right, Cower Before Me. Uninkable 2 cost action. Up to 2 chosen opposing characters can't challenge during their next turn. I think this is actually a decent card. I think this card could see some play in, any format, really. But it being uninkable and obviously a card that you don't want to play on turn 2, I could see it as maybe a 1 or a 2 of in a deck, and it would have to be a pretty specific scenario. Maybe you're protecting a location, right? Maybe you need a card to be, sideways for a turn, and you have to guarantee to ready with it, something like that. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 because I wouldn't say it's unplayable, but it is difficult to play, especially with that unique ability. All right, we'll save our village. Mob Song has to be the song with the most sub songs, right? Maybe Be Prepared is tied for it or something. That's interesting. I'll have to research that. 2 cost inkable song. Your characters and locations gain resist +1 until the start of your next turn. Again, resist is just like not that important. It's a nice to have on a character. It's not that great to give it to things using up a card, using up an action, stuff like that. So it's a 1 out of 5. Look What You've Done. 2 cost inkable. Deal 2 damage to chosen character during your turn. When you discard this card, you may play it from your discard. You pay all costs. So this is one of the cards, as well as the Mother Gothel, that you discard from your hand and you can just play it, that people are saying like, well, I can just play You Broke My Smolder and I can discard my hand and draw 2 cards and I'll discard this and then I can play it. I hate to break it to you, you could just play this. You don't need to play You Broke My Smolder and able to be able to play this card. You could play this card and then play You Broke My Smolder. There is basically no upside whatsoever to combining these 2 cards. You would want to play this card with something like the Mulan I mentioned earlier, with Angel like I mentioned earlier. This is a decent card. I have played Baboon before, which deals 2 damage to a character or a location. This one only hits a character, but it was very rare that dealing 2 damage to a location had any effect on the game whatsoever. So I think this is just a good, solid card, and I'm gonna give it 3. I think it's really solid and will see play. It's possible it could even see play in decks where you can't even discard it from your hand because it's just an inkable Fire the Cannons. Yes, it costs 1 more, but if you're a deck that can afford that 1 more, then it's fine. All right, Violet Par. 2 costs, 3/2, resist +1, super dot hero, quest for 1. So I like this card a lot. Obviously, I was a Mr. Smee fan. I may or may not have had my face photoshopped onto, oh, sorry, not Mr. Smee, Mr. Arrow in the past. Obviously, I was a huge Mr. Smee fan. Everyone was. That card was insane. But yeah, this card is, I think, fantastic. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, which may shock people because it's essentially a French vanilla, but it's so much better than a 3/3 character that it takes it from what would normally be a generic 3 out of 5, especially because we do have shift targets for Violet, to a 4 out of 5. Because if you think about this, if you were to play a Violet par that was a 2 cost 3/3, your opponent could banish it with a 1/4 and a 2/2, right? Uh, if you play this with resist 1, your opponent could deal 0 damage to it with their 1/4, and then would only deal 1 damage to it with the 2/2, right? So it would require a decent amount more hoops for your opponent to jump through to actually banish this character when you're not shifting on top of it. So it's pretty solid. Owl, Honey Ranger. 2 costs, 1/1, quest for 2, ally, Honey. While you have another Honey character in play, this character gains resist +2. So, same scenario with Violet. If your opponent is playing a bunch of things that are 2/2s or 1/4s or something like that, this is a pretty good card. Most likely, your opponent is playing things like Violet because Violet is a fantastic card, or they're just playing things like 2 cost 3/3 Buzz Lightyear, or any of the other 2 cost 3/3 characters in the game. And if that is the case, the resist +2 does nothing at all. And even if they are not, even if they are playing the 1/4s and 2/2s and stuff like that, most likely you will only have 1 or 2 other Honey characters. So if they can just deal with them in some way, especially if you're not expecting it, a lot of the Honey characters are really underpowered. So maybe they play something like 3 arrows, take out your Rue, take out something else. All of a sudden, your Owl is just sitting there as a sitting duck, and it's taken out by these 1/4s or these 1/3s, or 2/2s I'm talking about. So unfortunately, I keep saying it, I really like the idea of the Honey characters. I love everything about them, from the art to the flavor, everything. But it's a 1 out of 5. All right, we have Kronk, the Meat Hut Cook. 2 cost, inkable, 1/3, resist +1. So effective 1/4 in most scenarios. Quest for 1. During your turn, you may pay 1 ink to draw a card and then choose and discard a card. So I think Kronk's pretty good. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's going to be treated more like an item most of the game. But of course, if you played it on 2, especially if you're into play, you can probably at least get a quest out of it because your opponent probably has a 3/3. And the Kronk will not be banished in a challenge. So yeah, it's a pretty solid card. 3 out of 5. We have a Diablo. 2 cost, inkable, 3/2, ally. Your character's name Maleficent, gain resist +1, and a quest for 1. So way back when, on someone else's channel, I saw a Diablo that was spoiled, and I said, do the game developers not realize that you just cannot print Diablos that cost 2 or 1? There's so many. The Shift Diablo is way too good. It is one of the best cards ever printed in the game, and it frustrates me to no end every time it's played against me. So just this being a shift target for that, it wouldn't even have to have abilities. In fact, the ability is almost irrelevant. I still think this card will be played in Diablo decks just because you want to have as many as possible to shift it as soon as possible, start singing your songs, questing, drawing cards. So it's a 3 out of 5. All right, Absorbing Bloom. 2 cost, uninkable item, and you can exert it and pay 1. If a character is banished in a challenge this turn, draw a card. So that can be your character or your opponent's character. And it looks like it's actually absorbing Captain Hook's rapier in the back, which is pretty interesting because that card drew cards based on challenging. This card is probably along the same power level of that because it's uninkable, whereas the rapier was inkable, but the rapier costs more. So I would say it's about the same rate as that, and I would give that a 2 out of 5. So I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. If this was inkable, it would be way too good. Yeah. Aladdin, created by the Vine, 3 cost, inkable, 3/3, Floodborn, Vineling. Of course, all Vinelings are Floodborns. Whenever one of your Floodborn characters quests, you may draw a card, then discard a card. It also quests for 1. So I like that the Vinelings work with themselves, right? Whenever your Floodborn characters quest, this is a Floodborn character. I think this card's just fine. It's giving up 2 stat points to have this ability. I would not build a Vineling deck. I would not build a deck that's just full of Floodborns, just use these Vineling abilities. If I built a deck that I noticed had a lot of Floodborns in it, I would add some of these cards. So I think it's a fine, middle of the road, 3 out of 5 card. Dr. Hamstervale, 3 cost, inkable, 3/4, quest for 1, has alert, it's a villain, it's an alien, and it's an inventor. And I'd love to know the storyline because it looks like he's actually controlling part of the Vine. But again, this is a competitive channel. And for competitive implications, I think it's 3 out of 5. I think it's a really solid card. Keeps Dumbo in check. It's an alien. There are cards that care about things being alien. It's a villain. Same thing. Inventor, there are cards, but not so many. I think alien is the most important tag on here. And it's just a solid card. We've seen other cards like this be successful in the past. It's not as good as one that has evasive on your own turn. This one is alert, so you can't use it with your own Dumbo. But it's still a solid card, 3 out of 5. All right. Darkwing Duck, 3 costs, uninkable, 2/5, super dot hero, detective, quest for 1. When you play this character, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. Thankfully, it's not 1 damage to an already damaged character, which I feel like more and more cards say that, and it's super frustrating. Not sure why this card is uninkable. I think this could have been an inkable card, and it's still just not even that good of a card. It would, keep greedy people in check that are playing a lot of X1s, especially because, Eleanor is already doing that, so you're kind of greedy already. Just punish them harder. I'd say it's a 2 out of 5 because it's uninkable. All right, Omnidroid. 3 costs, 4/3, quest for 1, robot. While this character has no damage, it gets +2 strength. So it most likely will not have damage on it unless your opponent is playing something like Angel. So it's effectively a 6/3. I'd say 90% of the time for 3. That's pretty good. That is a phenomenal stat line. I think this card's great. I am going to give it a 3 out of 5. It's just like a pretty solid card. All right. Flynn Rider, 3 costs, 3/2, Hero Prince. Whenever an opponent chooses this character for an action or ability, they choose and discard a card. Quest for 2. Most likely, what your opponent will choose this card for is for challenging, and they'll use their 1-drop to do it. So it's giving up 1 stat point versus the vanilla baseline for this ability. So it's like basically on rate with a vanilla. It's just a 3 out of 5 character. I wouldn't play this, but I wouldn't fault someone for playing this, especially if they're using anything that needs princes or heroes. All right, the Weed Whacker. 3 cost, inkable item, exert, pay 1, chosen character gains challenger +2 this turn. Pay 2, banish this item. And notice you don't have to exert it to banish the item. You could possibly use both abilities. Banish chosen Vineling character. Yeah, I think this was made for limited. It's a 1 out of 5. I love that it exists. It's a hilarious card, but it's not for us. All right, Vine Entrance. 3 costs, 1 to move to, 7 willpower, 1 lore. The first time a Floodborn character moves here, each turn you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. It's not very good. 1 damage is so not that important most of the time, and again, if I had, I don't know, 30 Floodborns in my deck for some reason, maybe I would add cards like this, but I still wouldn't pick this one over, say, like the Aladdin. So it's a 1 out of 5 for me. Locations have to be pretty good. for me to want to play them, I should say, because yes, it has 7 willpower, but it doesn't fight back. Like, I would almost rather have, well, I'd definitely rather have like a 1/7 character that quests for 1 with no abilities for 3. At least like it deals 1 damage back to the opposing character, and I could do something like Ohana means family at some point, or it counts as a character for all of my other things like Eleanor and stuff like that. So yeah, locations not fighting back are a huge thing, and I'm not sure how often people talk about that, but it has big implications. All right, Windstorm. 4 cost inkable action, not a song. Deal 1 damage to each opposing character and location. Then deal 2 damage to each opposing character with evasive and each opposing location with evasive. So if the character has evasive, it's going to take 1 damage plus an additional 2 damage. It's going to wipe out things like Dumbo. I think this is a solid card. It's kind of like grab your swords. If your opponent is not playing any evasive characters, though, I don't think you like hardly ever want to use 4 ink to deal 1 damage across the board. Uh, Obviously, you can combo this with a card like Merida, but I think Merida is basically unplayable, so I'm not going to put an unplayable card in my deck to make a mediocre card better. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's a good tech choice, and I love that it's inkable, because typically cards that are a good tech choice are also uninkable for God knows what reason. So, 3 out of 5. Megavolt. 4 cost, inkable, 1/4, quest for 3. Pretty good stat lines for a 4 cost inkable. It's a super, it's a villain, it's not super villain. While you have no cards in your hand, this character gains resist +2. So when you have no cards in your hand, it's effectively a 1/6, but your opponent's going to need to deal that 6 all in one shot. Otherwise, it's going to absorb a lot of damage. The downside to all cards like this, and why none of these cards have basically ever seen play, is you would rather just have cards in your hand than have a more effective character. You would rather have options every single turn, not just drawing off the top of your deck. Because of this, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. I could even see giving it a 1 out of 5 because it's just not great. But worst case scenario, 4 costs, quest for 3 is fine. 2 out of 5. All right, the Irate Chef, Meat Hut Cook. We got the whole Meat Hut crew up in here. 4 costs, 5/5, quest for 1, vanilla character. It's on rate. It's fine. 3 out of 5. Mulan, created by the Vine. 4 costs, 3/3, quest for 2, Floodborn Princess Vineling. Whenever you play this or another Floodborn character, you may banish chosen item. I think this card is great. I'd rather have this in my deck than the Irate Chef most of the time. Unless I needed something with 5 strength for a specific reason, I'd rather have the utility in Mulan. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It's just a solid card. All right, Violet Par, 5 costs, inkable, 4/4, Storyborn Super Dot Hero, not a superhero. Shift 3, resist +1, quest for 2. Whenever you play this or another hero character, you may draw a card, then choose and discard a card. Solid card, 3 out of 5. It has a decent shift target. You're not getting, of course, so this one costs 3 to shift, it normally costs 5. So if you play it on top of this, you are not getting any ink advantage whatsoever. You're also not getting any card advantage because you're losing this card that was put under it. You are getting a tempo advantage. So if I'm going to shift it on something that costs 2, I'm really looking to also like sing a song with it that this one couldn't sing the turn that's played to get like a good tempo advantage. I'd rather shift it on a 1 cost Violet, which there is one in a previous set. Yeah, it's solid. All right, we have Sprout, Experiment 509. We need Experiment 824 Ravensburger. We need it. All right, so it is a 4/4. It costs 5 to play. It is inkable. It's an alien. It has resists +1, and it quests for 2. When you play this character, you may choose and discard an alien character card or a location card from your hand. If you do, deal 2 damage to chosen character. So just like I was saying up here with Dr. Hamstervale, I think the alien tag was the most important tag because there are things, and there are things in previous sets, including another Dr. Hamstervale, that uses aliens for different things. This is just an example of it. Is it the best card? No. Is it a fine card? Yeah. I'd give it a 3. It could also be a 2. It's most likely not making most decks unless you need it for the alien. The fact that it has the alien tagline. 5 cost Inkable, Sheriff of Nottingham. It is a 6/5. It's a villain. It quests for 1, and it has Challenger +3. So this is an understated card. A 5 cost should be a 6/7, and Challenger +2 should only give up 1 stat line. So this should be a 6/6. But oh, I'm sorry. It's Challenger +3. So this is fine. This is an on-rate card. And uh I think it's also an attractive stat line because 9 is massive. It is so hard to deal 9 damage on one fell swoop, so it's just a solid card. It is a 3 out of 5. All right, Scar, created by the Vine. 5 costs, uninkable, 5/4, Floodborn Vineling, quest for 1, and it's our legendary in steel. During your turn, whenever one of your Floodborn characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 1 lore. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your Floodborn characters is banished, draw a card. All right. So I always say if a card costs 4 or more character, then it needs to do something in turn comes into play, or if it leaves play. This kind of does both, right? During your turn, whenever one of your Floodborn characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 1 lore. It kind of does something in turn you put it into play, because you could play this while you have other Floodborn characters in play already. You can challenge things, you can gain lore. You gain value from it immediately. If your opponent banishes this or any of your other Floodborn characters, you are drawing a card. So it does something when it leaves play via being banished. If it gets hit with something like a Let It Go or a Mother Knows Best, it does not, right? So it is still a very good card because it has both of those abilities. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I think this is a fantastic card. It's not going to go in every steel deck, which I also love that. I love when we have cards that go in certain archetypes, but not all of them, right? Like if I'm building an Amethyst deck, I'm almost always just throwing like Hades and Demona and Cheshire Cat, and I can keep going with 12 other cards in my deck. I really like when they can design cards that are both powerful and have something that is unique to a certain kind of deck. So, yeah, 5 out of 5. Maximus, 5 costs, uninkable, 4/5, quest for 1. If you discarded a card this turn, this character gains Challenger +2 and can challenge ready characters. This is a 5 cost, uninkable, with the same stat line, basically, just, reversed. And it does nothing the turn it comes into play, and it does nothing if it leaves play, and it's uninkable. It's a 1 out of 5. All right, last line here. Attack of the Vine. Hey, isn't that the name of the set? Your Floodborn characters gain resist +2 and can challenge ready characters this turn. This is a 6 cost, uninkable action, not a song. It's a 1 out of 5. It's a really powerful effect, sure, but you have to have a lot of Floodborn characters. Sure, if you have tons of Floodborn characters and they can all make effective challenges because they have resist +2, you probably just win the game when you play this. But we've seen so many steel uninkable actions that cost 6 or more that just win the game if everything's going good for you, that have never seen play. It's not good in the setup phase. It's not good when you're already winning. You don't need it. It's not good in parity when both of you have nothing in play. It's really good in parity when both of you have a full board, but it's also restricted to Floodborn characters. So 1 out of 5. All right, next we have a 6 cost inkable 6/3 quest for 2. Will he or won't he? The Giant. He is a Floodborn Giant Vineling. Your Floodborn characters gain resist +1. Again, I like that it puts the ability on him as well because he is a Vineling, but it's kind of just such a mediocre card. Does nothing turn that you play it unless you can pick up some favorable trades. Well, not really trades because yours will have resist, so hopefully you pick up some favorable challenges. And it does nothing when it leaves play, so it's going to be a 2 out of 5 just because it's inkable, really. All right, Omni Droid, the ultimate iteration. It's an 8 cost inkable 8/8 robot. Shift 6, resist +2, quest for 2, and when you shift this character, you may return all cards under it to your hand. So, aside from Morph in this set that you could return to your hand, there are many other Omni Droids. There's one in this set, there's some in the previous set, and it is possible to just shift up the chain and just keep going, and then completely get back all the value you lost from shifting all these characters by putting them back in your hand. It obviously also works with Syndrome. It may not be obvious if this is your first time playing. That's okay. There is a Syndrome from the previous set that lets you play a robot that costs 8 or less for free. And if you pull that off, you are so far ahead that it's fantastic. I like a lot about this card. I think they could have made this card uninkable and completely killed it. So thank you for not doing that. Players want to do really powerful things. So making them jump through hoops to do so, whether that being like have another Omni Droid and play and having to shift 6, or pulling off that, shift Syndrome and actually do the thing. I think it's great that they give us these options. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. And we finally have the Vine. So we had attack of the Vine. Now we have the thing that's being attacked. This is a 10 cost inkable 10/10 Bloodborne, and it has Mickey Mouse all by himself trying to fight him off. It has Floodborne Shift. This is a new kind of shift. You may pay 7 ink to play this on top of one of your Floodborne characters. This could be any Floodborne character ever printed in the history of the game, as well as the Vinelings, because they are Floodborne characters, right? And a quest for 3. Your other exerted Floodborne characters gain Bodyguard. So all of your Floodborne characters, of course, are protecting the Vine. It's the source of their power. And then during an opponent's turn, whenever one of your Floodborne characters is banished, deal 1 damage to each opposing character. So all of those bodyguarded Floodborne characters on the way out, they're also, throwing a little poison dart out there and trying to take care of business for you. I think this is a really fun card. I love these big, splashy, powerful effects. I love that it's named after the set. I think this is great for Disney Lorcana. I think competitive wise, it might just be fine because you can always ink it, right? You can also shift it for 7 and sing something like a Sing Together 10 song, like Second Star to the Right. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that this card is actually a competitive, viable card. And it's definitely going to be a socially fun card because people just love these big, huge characters. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 because we're focused more on competitive. If this was just an all around, like, how do I feel about this card being in the set file, it'd be 5 out of 5. But for competitive reasons, 3 out of 5. So let's jump to what I thought about these cards, I think 5 or 6 days ago now. Boop, we're here. Again, sorry, I don't know how to make this bigger. But we did just read all the cards, so hopefully, you can still identify most of them. And I tried putting these cards in the order, right? So like not all 3s are made the same. Cards all the way to the left, I think I'm more likely to play or would recommend playing more over cards all the way to the right. So yeah, Scar still a 5. I still thought Violet and Omni Droids were 4s. The Vine, I'm like pretty close to moving that to a 4, but it's just so much ink to invest, and not a lot of decks can do that, especially not Steel. Maybe a Sapphire Steel deck, but most Steel decks I feel don't really ink to 7 as often. Not seeing much that's like really out of the realm of what I said. There might be a couple 2s or 3s that have swapped spots, or maybe even some 1s and 2s, but yeah, that's that. Let's bring us back to boop. There we go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. This series has been so much fun. I'm gonna be honest, I picked this as the first series for the channel because most channels that are brand new don't gain a lot of subscribers, don't gain a lot of views. And I thought this was just something that I could get some content out there, start letting, the community and the algorithm know, hey, we're here. And it has been much more successful than I could have even thought. And to someone who's, more successful, which is a loaded term. Success should be based on, how you feel about it, not like any sort of other metric. And how I feel about it is I'm very happy. So thank you all. I'm only happy because of everyone out there. And I've been getting tons of great feedback and, not only comments on the videos, which I appreciate so much. I've been getting messages, comments on Twitter and stuff like that. So honestly, thank you all so much. I really hope as a community we just keep growing, and I hope that I can be even a small part of the community growing. So thanks. Till next time.